I think one of the biggest lessons in poker is that if you're never caught bluffing, it could be because you're a really amazing bluffer, but more likely it's because you're not bluffing enough. So you're not getting told no, not because you are just like so wonderful at everything you're doing, which could be true, but it also could be because your asks are too small, that you're not asking for enough money, you're not asking like for big enough names, you're not asking for the raise or the promotion that you deserve.
Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. This season is a training plan for confidence. And that means each week we unveil a challenge and have a guest come on to talk about that challenge. This week's challenge is the Microbrag, how to share things that you are genuinely proud of with others. I can't think of a better person to join me to talk about this topic than Jennifer Shahade. Jennifer is a 3-time national chess champion, 2-time Global Poker Award winner, a PokerStars ambassador, and an author. Her next book is called Thinking Sideways: How to Think Like a Chess Player and Win at Life. This is pretty cool for me because I've always wanted to be really good at chess and really good at poker. So she can master the art of the brag, the bluff, all the things. She's also an advocate committed to making strategy games more inclusive and accessible. Her work spans commentary, nonprofit leadership, writing. She helps train young women to play chess, girls who are ages 8 and 12. And she shows us how confidence, creativity, and risk-taking intersect at the highest levels of performance. Let's listen in. Jennifer, welcome to In Confidence.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to meet you in person.
Yeah, it's been an amazing pre-talk.
Yeah, you were part of our International Women's Day campaign, 25 Ideas in 2025. With every episode, we start with one question with our guest, which is, in the last 12 months, what are you proudest of in your life, personally or professionally?
A couple of months ago in London, I played in this poker tournament and I won it. And it was a really proud moment for me because it wasn't just about winning, it was about my attitude. My attitude was really different than usual. And my husband and son were both there. They were in town to see London and also to support me. And Daniel, my husband, said that I was completely different than normal. I just had this energy that I was gonna win. And the thing about poker is that it's very mathematical and it's all about uncertainty. So of course I didn't know that I was gonna win. I'm never the superstitious person. I'm always the person that's the odds are 20% that you're gonna win this and 30% that you get in second and third. I'm always calculating the odds. But somehow I was able to keep the math and also the confidence at the same time. I was able to kind of merge them. Yeah, of course I know what the odds are, but I'm also gonna win.
Yeah, you've won a lot of tournaments. What was the difference? How did you maintain confidence and a sense of the probabilities and the odds?
I think it was just realizing that just because you're not rationally thinking about the odds in every moment doesn't mean that you're not playing smart. So you can know that the odds are that something might go wrong. You might get unlucky. You might occasionally have a bad read, but that you're still the boss and you're still gonna win. It's I just think realizing that you don't have to be walking down the street thinking, oh, I might just fall on my face. I might fall on my face. I could get struck by lightning. Yeah, sure, all sorts of bad things could happen, but that's not what we're thinking about. We're thinking about playing our best and winning.
I love that that's what you're proudest of. When you've won in the past, have you had self-doubt in your mind?
I think so, yeah. I've had more self-doubt. It hasn't been quite as clean of a mindset. And I definitely feel it's something that carries me through other things as well, like business, speaking, writing. This is the type of attitude I want to have. And it was really nice to see it shine through in a gaming format, especially because it was also televised. The whole thing was live streamed. So if I did make a mistake, it's even worse, some people might think. And I think that some of my opponents were a little more concerned that if you make a mistake, not only do you make a mistake, but everybody sees you making it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into it a little bit later, but how much experience drives confidence over time. And I know we're going to get into that. Before we go there, for those of our audience who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and how do you make a difference in the world?
Well, I am a chess and poker champion, and the way I make a difference in the world is by bringing the lessons of both games to everyone. I think that whether you play chess or poker or mahjong or Monopoly, whatever game you play, you can use it to be the better version of yourself, because games are like models for life. And I want to just like bring that joy to more people. And that is something I do every day. I've done it my entire career for women and girls in chess, because we're really underrepresented in that field. But even more broadly, I just want everyone to be happier and to find their best selves. And I think that games are a way to unlock that, particularly the two that I like the most. They're kind of the OG games. The games have been around forever, chess and poker. And sorry to go fans. I know there's a couple other big ones, but these ones are really iconic, and they really represent different things. In poker, it's all about getting familiar with uncertainty and being able to keep going even though things are uncertain. And chess, it's very much about confidence and understanding that you are in charge of your future. And you have to make your decisions. You have to live with them. So I think chess is really great for decision making, and then poker is very good for uncertainty. And together, they're like core skills for life.
And I love that you use these two as analogies for life in general. Because one of my favorite sayings is, "Life doesn't get easier; we get stronger." And as you talk about uncertainty, so much is uncertain in our lives. So having the tools to be able to manage risk and uncertainty while also making good decisions. Like, how cool is that those are the two, and you use games as a way to teach those lessons?
Oh yeah, it's really important. I mean, poker, it's a way to teach people to be comfortable with risk. I mean, people in general are famously uncomfortable with risk, as Danny Kahneman showed in his groundbreaking book, Thinking Fast and Slow. If you ask people to flip a coin and they get $100 for getting heads, but they lose $50 if they get tails, some people won't even take the bet because they're so traumatized by the idea of losing money.
Wow.
And so I feel like that's something in poker that comes up all the time. Like, there's something in poker called the bubble. That's when you're about to get some money, but usually it's like a small amount of money. Like, say, the tournament costs $100. You're about to get like $60. You get your original 100 and another 60. But if you win it all, you get, say 10,000.
Okay.
And so there's so many people that they're so excited to get that $60 that they're not thinking about getting the big one. And I think so much of life is going for the big one.
Okay. Well, let's go into that. When you think about poker, and maybe we take poker and chess separately. So let me start with poker. What are some of the primary lessons that you talk about in poker, and what has defined your success in that arena?
I think one of the biggest lessons in poker is that if you're never caught bluffing, it could be because you're a really amazing bluffer, but more likely it's because you're not bluffing enough.
Ooh, and I love that. Like, you're not going big enough.
Exactly. Yes, you're not getting told no, not because you are just like so wonderful at everything you're doing, which could be true, but it also could be because your asks are too small, that you're not asking for enough money, you're not asking for big enough names, you're not asking for the raise or the promotion that you deserve. And so I actually noticed this about myself, that I wasn't getting enough no's, and I was like, I need to get embarrassed and be red. Look at my red.
Yeah, it's like chasing failure, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
exactly.
chase it because I'm swinging big enough for it.
Exactly. In poker, that happens all the time. There are people that just almost never bluff because they're like, why bluff? I can just try to make a good hand and get paid off. And it doesn't work that way. In order to really enjoy the fruits of your labor, you need to go big because it creates compound interest. And that's the case in poker and definitely in life.
How do you get good at bluffing? Or can you tell us a story about when you did it really well?
Well, yeah, actually in the tournament in London, I was in a hand where we were at the final table. And this is the tournament I really want to win because it's part of my sponsor, PokerStars, their big landmark event. And so I'm in a hand and I have nothing. I have 10 high. And I know that if I don't bluff, I'm going to lose a hand for sure. And if I think too long, then she's going to know I'm bluffing. So I just go all in. I have to muster up the courage because I know it's the right play. I know she's going to fold a lot.
How do you know she's going to fold?
Well, because the way that she bet it early in the hand. Ooh. So I don't know for sure she's going to fold. And this is where uncertainty comes. Obviously, if I know for sure, then I just go all in and it's no sweat. It's all about uncertainty. So I know that she might fold, and I feel like I have to go with that. I have to say, she might fold, and then I'm going to be a chip leader, and I have a really good chance of getting that first place prize and the trophy. Or I could just show my 10 high, which is nothing in poker, no pair, nothing, and hope that somehow I get lucky in future hands, right? And I think that's like a big life metaphor, right? Like you can just hope that you'll get lucky and that like you don't need to go big, that somebody will come to you, that you'll get the aces the next hand. But what if you don't? Then you're going to look back and say, maybe I should have gone bigger earlier.
And you said something really important, I think, is you were reading her the whole time. So there was a little bit of calculation there around, I'm going to go all in, but I've seen a few indicators that suggest I have a good chance of being successful. Is that fair?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you're never caught bluffing, you're not bluffing big enough. You're not going in hard enough. Any other lessons that are big for you in terms of poker?
Yeah, I think in poker, one of the really important lessons is balance is so difficult. Like a lot of people are patient. They're really good at being patient. Just not, letting their emotions take hold of them and getting angry. In poker, we call that on tilt or super upset. And then there's also a lot of people who are very good at being aggressive. They actually bluff too much. But actually getting the frequency right is extremely rare. It's really, really hard. And that's probably why it's so hard to be a leader. Because I think that leaders know when to be patient and when to be aggressive and to ask for what they want and go for what they need and go for it. And the people who in poker just go for it all the time, they lose all their money very quickly. The people who don't go for it enough, they lose all their money very slowly. And the champions are the ones who modulate based on the situation. They're patient when it's right to be patient, and they're aggressive when it's right to be aggressive. And they don't have a huge preference. It's not like I have to be aggressive or I have to be patient. It's whatever is right for that moment.
And how do you know what's right for the moment?
Well, experience really helps a lot. And then sometimes you're wrong and you have to be comfortable with that. I think that's very key. Some people don't like being wrong one way or the other. Like they don't want to miss out on an opportunity. They'll feel horrible. So then they're over aggressive. Some people are afraid that if they go for it and they lose, they're going to be embarrassed. And so don't have any fear. As long as you make the right decision with the information you had at the time, you judge that. And that is really a core skill in poker that I think is so applicable to life. It's about the quality of the decision. So not as much about the outcome. So if you made a good bet, like say I made that bluff with the 10 high and she calls me and I'm wrong. Does that mean that it was terrible? Not necessarily. It could mean that she was trapping me the whole way along, that she had like a set of kings and like I was just doomed to lose my money on this hand, right? Or it could be that I was wrong. I don't know. It's not enough information that you got a bad outcome to say that you made a bad decision. And poker's all about that.
And what I'm also hearing from you is there's almost a comfort with when I do lose, I'm learning along the way. I don't hear any regret in your voice in terms of if you lose a hand or if something doesn't go your way. Is that fair to say?
Well, there is sometimes regret. I think the biggest regrets that I have in poker and in life when you make a bad decision and you get a bad outcome. It's like the quadrant. That's a really bad start pot. It's like you get unlucky and you could have played better. So that's usually the one that I'm trying to avoid.
It sounds like, though, you're always constantly learning, though, right?
Yes.
In terms of, okay, I now have more information for the next time this happens.
Yeah, and you have to tolerate making big mistakes because if you don't ever make big mistakes, again, it's kind of like bluffing. It's like you're not playing enough. And that fear of getting into the game, I think, is very bad because whether it's chess, poker, or life, one of the most important things is volume. Getting a lot of opportunities to succeed.
I love that. I'm an entrepreneur, and I will say 80% of my ideas fail.
Yeah.
There's the 20% that are incredible, but I am very comfortable with failing.
Yeah, it's so important. And some people learn that lesson from business, investing, and some people don't. And I really want everybody to learn that lesson because, yeah, people have a big fear of it.
Okay, we're going to get comfortable with loss then. All right.
Yes.
Now let's switch gears to chess. What are some of the big lessons from chess?
Well, one of my favorite life lessons from chess is the idea that in chess, you have to think about what your possibilities are in front of you, right? In chess, there's actually more possible games than there are atoms in the observable universe, which is insane. It's like a crazy stat, right? And it's true that most of those possible games are like really terrible. They would be like with two people playing who didn't know the rules. But as you get better, you see the better possibilities, but there's still so many. So much of the game is about trying to figure out what possibilities you're going to look at and then how to evaluate. And I think what happens with a lot of chess players and a lot of times when we're playing life is that we get more fixated on one and a lot of the decision-making process, instead of like trying to look at A, B, and C and pick the best choice, it's like, I want to do C. How can I justify that C is the correct choice?
So you get stuck on a certain path.
Instead of thinking it's like confirmation bias. So you're like, okay, so how can I want to sacrifice my knight. That's what I want to do. How can I justify it to myself? And like, even though I actually think that maybe it's not the best move, but I really, really want to play it. Maybe I can find a way to make it work. And so much of our thought processes are like that. Even good players, we have this, like, as you want to call it, leak. So that I think is really crucial, being able to just like widen your view and be more objective. And chess really teaches you that.
So let me go back to that example. Like, I want to sacrifice my knight. What is the question you would ask as opposed to that?
Well, I think one of the key things in chess decision making is you have to think about it from your opponent's point of view. And don't think too far ahead. That's why my book is called Thinking Sideways, because so much of great chess play is about thinking about what's happening right now, staying present. So if I sacrifice my knight, the question isn't what's going to happen 6 moves after that. The question is, like, what is my opponent going to do? And am I looking at all their possibilities? Am I thinking through their eyes and their shoes as much as I am for mine? Because that is what the best chess players do, which is really interesting because it shows the importance of empathy in being a good games player, which is very similar to negotiation, right? It's not about what you want 6 moves ahead. It's about what your opponent wants in the next 2 moves. And that's how you're going to get what you want.
Well, I know we're going to talk about your forthcoming book, which is coming out next April. I did get to read an advance copy. So thank you for letting me read the advance copy 6 months in advance. But what you just said and what I read in the book really stumped me, because there's that cliche of I'm playing chess and he's playing checkers, right? Which is, I think maybe the misguided idea of chess is you are thinking 6 moves ahead. But what you've just said is actually the greatest chess players stay in the present and think about the reaction from the opponent. Can you help me reconcile this idea of, like, most people think of chess as I've thought 6 moves ahead versus what you just said?
Yeah, the thing is that if you think too many moves ahead, like say 10 moves ahead, then the web of possibilities becomes overwhelming. It's more important to think like 3 or 4 moves ahead, but make sure you're looking at all the right moves and you're looking at all the different possibilities for yourself and your opponent.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe that's where that cliche has gotten it wrong. It's not about looking too far ahead. It's about scanning the options and thinking through all the possibilities in a short vantage point.
Exactly, for you and for your opponent, yes. And I think that's a beautiful life metaphor because, if we are tunneling and looking 6 years ahead and not thinking about our loved ones, our coworkers, all the different things that could happen, you can see how this is kind of the version of a chess player who's just like, well, I'm going to sacrifice my knight, and then I'm going to take their bishop, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And it's like, wait, there's another person. There's another person you're playing against who wants to beat you.
You just explained why I lose to my boyfriend at chess all the time. Because I have done the, like, he'll do this and then I'll do this. And then I'll miss the stupid simple move and he's taken my queen.
Exactly.
Like, literally, that's happened to me at least a dozen times playing chess with him. Is I'll be like, he'll do this and then I'll do this and then I'll go here and all that. And then I'll just miss that my queen is right there for the taking. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'm going to change my whole ways in which I play chess.
Yes, you're going to beat him next time. Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to be, now I have your cell phone number. I will be texting you little screenshots of here's where his board is right now. What do I do, Jennifer? What else can you learn from chess?
I think another big one is that all serious chess games are timed. Whether it's the World Chess Championship, the US Chess Championship, or you go to Washington Square Park, Union Square Park and play a game where you're going to see them with like this double-sided clock, right? And each player is going to get 5 minutes. So I have a clock and you have a clock. And we have to figure out how to make our decisions in this time constraint and which moves to give a lot of time to and which moves to just do quickly. And I think life is very much like that too, where some decisions you kind of have to make quickly, right? And some decisions you really need to take your time. And the best chess players are really good at figuring out what the critical moments are, which are the ones where they really need to think. and which are the ones where they can rely on their intuition.
Okay. Well, so now I've got 4 lessons then, right? At poker, are you bluffing big enough? Or are you haven't been caught because you haven't been going in hard enough? Balance. I love this idea of like modulating your approaches and being present in the moment and thinking about your opponent's reactions and not necessarily 6 moves ahead, but maybe 3 or 4 moves ahead, and figuring out your possibilities within a scope. I like that because you've almost bounded the problem, but you still have options within it. And then I love this last one, which is there's a time. There's time, there's a clock. And so you've got to figure out how to use that clock to your advantage.
Yeah, and some people play too quickly, and some people play too slowly. And each person has something to learn from the other.
So what kind of player are you?
I'm aggressive, but I'm also on the slower side.
Okay.
So I do like to think. I love thinking about like difficult puzzles, trying to figure out the right answer. But the question often becomes like, if you spend a lot of time on this puzzle, then are you going to leave yourself with like 1 minute for a future puzzle?
Interesting.
So you can't use too much time on one decision unless you really, really think you're making progress. But a lot of times you're not. You're kind of circling around the same ideas. And I'm sure we can recognize this in life too. When we've kind of just like trying to make a decision and we're just like, well, this is the circle. Like I could hire this person or I could hire that person. We already know their pros and cons. And now we're just kind of torturing ourselves, obsessing over it.
Well, let me double click on that. And by the way, I'm a fast player, so maybe I should be spending more time being curious and thinking through things. Everything you've just said though, I think relies on a lot of self-trust. Like you really have to trust your own game and have a lot of belief in yourself. How do you create your own sense of self-trust and self-belief?
It's very difficult. A lot of people, it differs for each person. I think that winning helps and reminding yourself of your wins, which I know is really big for you. You know, you can't just win and then just like forget about it. You got to constantly remind yourself of that best version of yourself. And study, training, that helps a lot.
We've had a lot of people sit in this chair who've talked about practice.
Yeah.
And I think there is this idea of, wow, I see you on stage and you just are phenomenal or you're just naturally talented. And then you double click on that and everyone goes, no, I've been spending thousands and thousands of hours doing this. So I make it look effortless, but it's incredibly effortful.
Yeah, exactly. And spending the right type of time too. It's not just about time, it's about the quality of the time. Like if you're studying your chess game or your poker game, it's a lot about it is prioritizing. Like what's really important, what's actually likely to happen that you're going to need to work on. And using your time for that will really pay dividends.
Well, I want to now switch gears a little bit because, as I mentioned, I got to read an advanced copy of Thinking Sideways coming out April 2020. What's the publication date?
April 7th, 2026 here in US, yeah.
Okay, burned in my brain. And for those listening in Europe, in the UK, it'll come out around the same time?
A little earlier, actually, because I'm going to be promoting it in London. So that's February 12th, 2026.
Okay, where you are a champion. You won a tournament recently. Can you tell folks a little bit about what the book's about? And I have my team put together the 5 things we learned from the book, so we'll double click on a few of those. But can you tell folks what Thinking Sideways is about?
Yeah, Thinking Sideways is all about how to use the skills of a chess player in your life. And a big one is decision making, thinking about more options, thinking about better options rather than just tunneling, and being able to kind of imagine all of the possible lives that you could lead and pick the one that you like best. And there's a lot of other skills that I go into, like the way that chess players memorize their openings and their end games and how that can help anyone, and how to build confidence, because chess is a very, very hard game. It's a really tough game, and you need to be confident that you can do it. And I think that it's a life skill in that way. So that's something I go through in my book as well.
Well, I often say from good options come good decisions.
I love that.
And one of your core messages is breadth over depth. Can you talk about what that means?
Yeah, about not getting seduced into tunnel vision and to always seeing your options in every situation. It's so crucial in chess. In chess, we call it an intermezzo. When you see a move that nobody else saw, it's not far ahead. It's just right there, but it's a shock. Sometimes it's like a weird check or a pawn move that nobody saw that forces them to kind of like sit up and be like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And it's about like kind of finding those ideas in your life, whether it's like, taking a gap year, a a career pivot. It's about seeing those things and not feeling like you're locked in to the path that you were born into or that you studied in school.
There was a great Harvard Business Review piece recently that studied people who were locked into a career trajectory and it made them very unhappy. And then when they were told, hey, no one will be upset with you if you get off that career ladder. In fact, there's no shame involved in you choosing a different career. It made them happier and they actually pivoted. And so this study got into a lot of things around we're ashamed often when, you know, we have a tunnel vision, like I'm going to be a lawyer, this is my path. And then all of a sudden I'm deeply unhappy in this path, but I've told myself and everyone in the world that I'm a lawyer. And then when you're told, the data says, no one's going to be upset if you decide not to do that. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I feel so relieved. And I love that your book gives people permission to say, scan for opportunity. Don't just get locked into one.
Absolutely. I love that. And I read a similar study about people deciding who to hire, you know, going internally or looking outside the company. And they found that even when they picked the internal candidate, everybody was happier when there was a broader search.
Okay.
Because the employee ended up, you know, asking for more money, you know, what they deserved. And the employer felt really happy that they looked at all the options. So they felt more confident in that choice.
Yeah. And I imagine that employee is also feeling validated. Like you went outside and I still outcompeted with that group of people. So I love that. So you call it an intermezzo, because I'm going to use that from now on. So intermezzo, that's where you're, is that
an in-between? Yes, it's called an in-between move in
Okay.
chess. Yes, and that's Italian, intermezzo for it.
Yeah.
Actually, it's also happens to be a best-selling book by this fiction author, Sally Rooney, who wrote a fictional book about chess. It's just a beautiful word, and it has like so many applications.
Okay, that in-between move. So
Yes.
be comfortable with that in-between. I love that. So, you know, our book is all about self-confidence. And I think I said to you, I said, oh my gosh, it's like we're kindred spirits. I felt like we were meant to meet, and I cannot wait to like share your book with the world. One of the things you say in this is decision-making improves when you know your strengths and your style. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. One thing that I think is really important in life is to be aware of your strengths, not only in your field, but also socially and academically in every way, because it brings you confidence. And there's so many ways to do this. In chess, if I have a student and I see that they're suffering with confidence, which happens all the time, especially with my female students, I will ask them to create a database of their best wins.
Ooh.
You know, so like the time that they sacrificed a rook, the time that they beat a stronger player. And I've done that for my own games too. And I want them to review that before they play a tournament. It's like a confidence primer.
I love that. So then they know what they're the best at. They already
Yes.
know that they've done that well, and they can bring that into the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a reminder of how they played in their best selves. And one of the concepts I bring up in my book is what I like to call the principle of chess boxing. And so there's an old friend of mine, unfortunately, he passed recently, and he was a German artist who was also a very good boxer. He's an amateur boxer, and he was also a very good chess player, but not like world championship level. We're not talking Magnus Carlsen. So he had this epiphany that he was going to create his own sport called chess boxing. And yeah, so you actually alternate rounds of chess with rounds of boxing.
Okay.
And he found a similarly strength opponent, who was also pretty good at boxing and pretty good at chess. And they played in a church in Amsterdam, and it got like hundreds of attendees. This was in 2000, by the way, so a long time ago. And it created this new sport. In fact, they're actually playing a chess boxing world championship right now in Serbia.
Oh my gosh.
And so what I love about this, though, is that he kind of created his own world championship title. He was like, what are the two things that I'm really good at, but not like, you know, not Magnus Carlsen, right? Not Lennox Lewis. I'm good, but I'm not the best. But if I combine the two, then I'm the best at that intersection.
I'm the best chess boxer in the world.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I challenge my readers. Like, what is your chess boxing? Because we can't all be, like, mathematically, we can't all be the world chess champion or the world mahjong champion or, like, you know, the number one of whatever we do. But maybe we can if we find that right intersection.
You know what I love about this, and this is very much tied to one of your lessons, which is tie your ambition to your strengths. Don't just have blind ambition. And your measuring stick is yours to define. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah. And I think that finding those categories, it's like just huge for business. It's like finding a new category. And if we're all like kind of like a personal business, I think finding those strengths and narrowing it down and finding what are you the best at. It's a beautiful way to think about things, I think.
Well, and we own a fashion company, and I often say to folks, we are never going to own 100% of someone's closet. What we are going to do is we're going to own 100% of the portion of the closet that matters. So there's like 10% of your closet that is your most valuable player. It's like that one thing that you put on that you're like, I love this, and people talk to me when I'm in it, like the blouse we sent you, right?
Oh yeah, I love it.
But that's maybe one item in the 80 items in your closet, but we own a space in your life. And that's kind of how we define success, is we're a most valuable player in the closet. And we did the same thing. We kind of created our own metric by which we define our success and impact in the world.
Yeah, and I love that blouse. I wore it to a speaking event I was at recently, and I just love that it's not just wearable, but it's also a conversation starter. And I have a few things in my closet like that, and you're absolutely right. They're like the ones that I want to keep taking out. Like I have a poker blouse, like I have a jacket with sequins and a chest position on it.
Yeah.
These are my favorites.
Well, and our suffragist news blouse, before we started, I was like, it's the only time I let people read my chest. Because you can like read all the newspaper articles about when we got the right to vote. There's also a thing that you talk about. So, decision making improves when you know your strengths. I love that you think about pattern recognition, like go back through your old games and really think about when you had wins. Align your ambitions with those strengths. You also talk about, though, that confidence is dynamic and not fixed. What does that mean?
One thing I talk about in my book is like the confidence switch. And what I mean by this is that chess players need to be very confident when they're performing. Similar to if you're doing a speaking event, it's good to be very confident. Like if I was putting on a scale from 1 to 10, before I play chess or poker, I want to really be at like an 8 or a 9, to be honest. Like same in speaking. I want to be very, very high confidence. But then when I'm reviewing my chess games or reviewing my poker hands or reviewing notes for my speeches or my business meetings, then I actually want to go way down because I want to really be critical. Like, what could I have done even better? Ooh. So it's being able to go from that 8 to 9 to like back to like a 4 or a 5, and just being like really like ruthlessly critical. When I edit my writing, I might go down to a 2. I'm like, this is terrible. Where's the red pen?
Okay, so let's take those separately. What are your rituals to get to an 8 or a 9? What are the things you do to be at that high?
That's the harder part. The other part comes more naturally.
For all of us. All of us start with the inner critic before we start with our best story. So how do you get to an 8 or a 9?
I think it's different for a lot of people. But like I said, that confidence primer, I think also identifying the people that you want to talk to before those big moments. It's not always the people that are closest to you. Sometimes it could be somebody like a friend who's just like a hype guy, right? It could be that like a close family member is more important for those times when you're trying to improve yourself, right? When you need somebody who's really honest. So I think be really honest with yourself about who you want to hang out with before a big game or whatever your version of a big game is. And then I do believe that affirmations right before a big moment are important. They're good for me. I'm not sure if it works for everyone, but I like to remind myself that, I'm there because I'm great.
Yeah, and I love this idea of like confidence primer and getting yourself. I do a thing called 757. It's box breathing, but I inhale the best moment of my life from the last 12 months, and I hold on to it. And as I exhale, I stand on the top of my mountain before I get on stage. And it's my own ritual where I use my confidence primer. I think of like the best moment. Yeah. And I just like sit inside of it for 19 seconds. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go recreate that feeling.
That's great.
Yeah.
That energy is so important. It's like so huge. Even when I'm teaching just like a Zoom with kids, or like, I did this really, really fun event recently where I was teaching anime VTubers chess. Like, I just feel like energy is like the number one thing. Like, it's not about preparation and like, your hands and poker that you want to play. It's about having that positive energy and keeping it and holding on to it. And everybody needs to just kind of keep working until they can find their 757.
Yeah. Okay, now let's go back to when you're at a 2 or a 3.
Yeah.
So now I'm like replaying that last match in my head, or I'm reviewing something. What are the tools you use when you're at a 2 or a 3?
Well, yeah, like I said, when I'm actually reviewing my games, I want to be kind of 2 is a little too low because I feel like then it gets too emotional and you're not really rational anymore. But if I'm in like the 3 to 5 range where I'm like trying to just like look very objectively at my weaknesses and how I could have played even better, Like I said, that actually comes pretty naturally to me because I'm always looking for ways to get better. And I am trying to like ask advice from friends, use AI often to get feedback when it comes to chess and poker. AI is a great place to start to tell you where you could have done better. But then it's usually good to intertwine that with human feedback because it's sometimes a little limited. Like it can tell you what you did wrong. It can't really tell you why. And usually humans are a little better at that for now.
But this is huge for me. And I always think when we've failed or when something hasn't gone our way, people naturally shrink inwards. What I like about what you say is going outwards, because I often say when you get feedback, when nothing's left to mystery, you get stronger, right? Like when we try to be like superheroes and I'm perfect, no one is invited to have fingerprints on your journey. And it sounds like you go to others and you say, what could I have done better? Is that?
Yeah, it's super important, definitely.
Who do you go to?
Well, in poker, it could be like players, great players, coaches. And like I said, in chess, AI is usually the first stop. And then, you kind of broaden out from that.
This is very surprising because when I think of poker or chess, it seems like a very individualistic thing to do. I love that you have coaches and other players who will give you their thoughts on something. You have people to go to for feedback.
Absolutely. It's so crucial. Yeah. Because otherwise, you're going to make a lot of the same mistakes over and over.
And people will help you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Even when they're your competitors?
Well, yeah, because, it's usually a couple of things. First of all, we play chess and poker because we love the games. So a lot of times when you're asking for feedback, they're just interested.
Okay.
They're like interested in the situation. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure you do that for others
as
yeah,
well. Absolutely. I love helping people in that way.
That sounds pretty cool to be in an industry or an arena where like people are just excited to like solve it with you and like how would I have gotten out of this situation?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I need to get back into it. Now, this season of our podcast, every week we set up a life challenge for our listeners. So on Tuesdays, we share with them a micro moment that makes their life better. And then on Fridays, our guest comes on and talks about that micro moment. And this week, we actually, as part of our training plan for confidence, the challenge is called the Microbrag. So it's the intentional act of noticing and sharing meaningful wins or sources of pride, not necessarily tied to external markers of success, that reflect your personal values and joy, not in comparison to others, and celebrating something that genuinely matters to you as a practice of self-affirmation and connection. When we give moments of pride a voice, it strengthens our own confidence and invites others to share theirs. So it's naming something you're proud of because you decided it mattered and makes you feel stronger. And so microbags represent who you are and how you celebrate yourself. As someone who's succeeded in fields where confidence is everything, does this idea resonate with you? Like, what does microbragging mean in the worlds in which you play?
Yeah, I think it's really important because when you play difficult games or write books for a living, there's just so many moments of doubt. And I think being able to like sit back and say like, yeah, I did that right. It can go into that confidence primer that I was mentioning earlier.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because you just described it right with your students, where you're like, okay, that move that you made, where you sacrificed that rook, but then it turned out this way. That's a microbrag for your student.
Exactly. And can you give me an example of one of yours?
Microbrag. One of the things I just got up. You saw I was watching video of my puppy at daycare. I've never had a pet before, and I don't even own plants. I've never kept anything alive ever that isn't myself. And my boyfriend last year said, we should get you something that you can love outside of your job and me. Like you need something that's going to unconditionally love you. And I'm proud of the fact that for the last 5 months, I've kept this puppy alive and she seems happy and she seems happy to be around me. So my micro brag is I've kept a puppy alive for 5 months. I don't know what that says about my lifestyle.
What's your puppy's name?
Ripple Sunshine.
Oh God,
she has a ripple
cute.
effect on others.
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful idea. That's a great brag too. Doing a good job naming your pet.
Well, my boyfriend named her after a Grateful Dead song, and then I had to justify it. Can you remember a moment early in your career when you realized you had to speak up for yourself or microbrag for yourself?
Yeah, actually, there was a moment where I had a big poker win in Prague, and I had actually flown in for the event that morning, and I wasn't sure I was going to play in it because I was getting in at like 2:00, and the tournament started at 3, and it was a foreign country, but I had some friends who told me that I had to get there. Some investors that said, you got to get here. This is a great tournament to play. And like 14 hours later, I'm still sitting there, and I was the only woman to play in the event. And I think I was the only one who didn't really have any friends there either. Like the others all seemed to be like connected. A lot of them were from Russia or Eastern Europe, and they all had like friends at the table. And so, yeah, it was probably like 2 a.m. It was lasting longer than expected. And I was heads up with another guy. And we were continuing to play. It was 3 a.m., it was 4 a.m. And suddenly the tournament directors were like, okay, we got to figure out a way to finish this. And so we came up with a plan that we were going to play like a few more hands, and whoever had more chips at the end of those few hands was going to be the winner. So fast forward to those few hands, I was the winner.
Yes.
But the guy who I was playing against at the point, he said that he didn't really understand the rules. He didn't understand the rules because English wasn't his first language. Okay. So when the rules were relayed to him, he was like, I didn't really understand that. I think we should like play another hand.
Like I didn't agree to this.
Well, he did kind of agree to it, but he said he didn't quite understand because there was like a little technical complication that he didn't understand. And so they asked me to play another hand. I was like, no.
I won.
I won. Like, I'm sorry. I did feel some sympathy. And I think that was a wake up call for me too. Cause I was like, I felt a little bad that he didn't understand, but I also was like, I can't like take away what I won because of that.
Good for you.
Yes. You just had to stand up for yourself. And you're not always going to make friends. Like we don't send each other Christmas cards.
Okay, that's a great example.
I have that belt, and the belt was made for a guy, of course. So it's like massive wrestling belt.
Okay, that's
for this
not a
tournament
microbrag.
win.
That's a macrobrag. That's my belt.
Sorry.
No, and that for me is huge because I think in other instances, a woman, I'm not saying women in general, but like you didn't have any supporters in the group. You were there by yourself. You're the only woman. It would have been easy for you to be like, oh, sure, let you have this chance to get back into it. At the same time, like that's lame on his part. Like I didn't understand what the things were. Like, would your play have really changed that much? I won, so I'm into it. That's a great story. Now, chess and poker are very performance based, right? It is binary. You win or you don't. How have you learned to talk about your accomplishments in a way that feels like authentic, not arrogant, even if you don't win a game?
Well, I think let me think. I think my strength and my confidence comes from not only the victories, but from feeling that I was able to use the victories to learn more about the world and help other people learn more about the world. That's like why my books and my art projects and like my coaching means so much to me. So I feel like I derive a lot of confidence from that, like my communication skills, and I think that really helps.
Okay, I love that. And the thing that I loved in your book is you do talk about losses. You do talk about what you can learn from loss, which I think is a huge part of becoming victorious in those scenarios.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've had a lot of memorable losses. I mean, so many. It's like they really stick with you. I think in general, it's interesting because your domain is confidence. And, most of my losses, I would say, are more likely to come from a lack of confidence than too much confidence. But I remember there wasn't one event where I was really working on my confidence and I was pumped up. And I played this amazing game. I played my favorite opening, the Dragon Sicilian. It's a chess opening for any of the chess players out there. And I sacrificed my rook. I had a gorgeous position. I was about to win. And I felt this combination, this finale in chess where it's like I was going to knock her out and win the game. And so I played very quickly. And then my heart drops. I was like, I didn't see a move. Like I didn't see an intermezzo. And it was kind of obvious based on how well I was playing. I should have seen it. And suddenly I draw the game instead of winning it. And, at the end of that championship, I ended up half a point out of first place.
Oh.
And it really taught me a lesson that you can be really, really confident, but there is, you don't want to be at 10 out of 10 in confidence. That's why, you remember I said 8 or 9?
Yeah.
On a scale from 1 to 10. I'm like 8 or 9, 8.5. Because at that moment, I was a 10. Because I wasn't even like looking at like obvious counters that could stop me. Because I was so big on me. So it's like there is that
There's
moment.
that overconfidence.
Yes,
at
exactly.
That point.
Yeah.
Okay. I've definitely had that too, FYI. I'm thinking about all these moments where like, we're gonna crush this, and then you're like, wah wah. Okay.
I did win the event the next year though.
Oh, okay, good.
So I was like, yeah, I was able to.
You learned from that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you decide which things to microbrag about? Like whether you're like, negotiating for something, teaching at a dinner, like, how do you think about what to share about yourself?
I think when you're in a career like mine, where it's about communicating, writing, poker, chess wins, it's easy to come off as arrogant. And so one thing that I found really helps is to make sure that when I am talking about my own accomplishments, I'm thinking about how it appears to the other person. And this is something my editor, she's amazing. My editor for my book, Thinking Sideways, did such a great job with this, because she was just like so big that like every story I told, every kind of like idea from chess I told, but why does the reader care? Like, what does it say to them? That yes, a brag is great. Like if I can tell a story about something great that I did, but is there a way that I can make it useful for you?
That's so human. Like even the idea of an intermezzo now has like changed my life. Like just
yay.
taking that in between move to like stop and think about. I love that. So in terms of like when we microbrag, we think about who we're microbragging to and what that might mean for them, how that might make a difference for them.
Yeah, and how they might be able to use it in their own lives. Yeah.
That is so important because I think when people microbrag, I think it's really for ego or status or to establish their power dynamic within a group. But when you microbrag with the intent of sharing something about yourself that you think make a difference for the other person, then it doesn't feel arrogant. It's very authentic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Done. Have you ever worried about crossing a line around microbragging? Like, is there a moment where you're like, oh, geez, like I am showing off a little bit?
No, I think it's really important as women, especially, to talk about our accomplishments because people really need to be reminded. The only thing is how to do it authentically. I think it's all about how. Like, I never feel bad about it. I feel like a lot of times it's the opposite. I should do even more of it. But sometimes I'm like, oh, that sounded rehearsed. It didn't sound natural enough. It's more about that. It's about making it sound natural and making it sound conversational so that it's also about the other person. But yeah, I think it's really important to like to show people why you're important to listen to, because otherwise there's just so many cases that people won't.
I mean, we don't do it enough. Women don't do it enough. So even if we dial it up a little, it's still not enough. Like you should just start doing it tomorrow, right? This is like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I've had so many, I've given chess workshops to girls and boys. And one thing I've noticed is like when I ask them like, how good are you? The girls will give a very, realistic, sometimes even less than realistic opinion of their strength. And the boys will always say like, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. And these are people that are at the same level. So this really starts very early, that girls and women are told to like, let people find out how good you are, surprise them. And no, just tell them.
So what do you tell the girls to do?
Well, yeah, I try to first explain to them sometimes like what's happening so they understand. And I explain to them that when you're in game, you should be more confident because it helps you play better. So I give it to them straight. That's the thing I love about chess. It's really for all ages. So when I'm talking to a group of 8, 10, 12-year-olds, like I see these people as complete humans. Like, I mean, obviously their brains have a long way to grow and they're still learning and getting smarter, but I really have a lot of respect for them and I'm really interested in them as people. And I think they can really read that. They can see it.
And this is why I think we're kindred spirits. And I'm happy you're there for 8 to 12-year-olds. So in our book, we talk about before the age of 8, we're all born fully self-confident. Boys and girls, ask them what they're the best at in the world. And I know you have a young son. They'll just tell you, I'm the best at everything. I'm the best at soccer. I'm the best at everything. And between the ages of 8 and 12, girls in particular develop an inner critic. And systemic bias actually reinforces that inner critic. Whereas boys are basically, because men created the system, told that their inner critic, oh, wave that away. You're amazing. And between the ages of 8 and 12 is when girls start to really let their inner critic take over their inner child's confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think one of the issues is not only that they're getting all these messages that is the way that other girls are, so that's the way they should be, but also sometimes it's the people around them, the mentors. In fact, I did a research study with professors from NYU, and we looked at this effect by asking mentors and coaches their opinion of different growth trajectories. So we would give them a chess graph of a girl player and a chess graph of a boy player, and we would compare like how good they think they could get. And we did see that there was a difference.
No.
So that, yes. And they weren't aware that they were being tested on this, of course. Like that's the way most studies work.
Yeah.
So they weren't sure like what these graphs were representing because they didn't know that the study was about gender, right? But they did rate the boys' potential ceiling as higher.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the other really interesting thing here was that the more the subject thought that it was really important to be a genius, to be good at chess,
Yeah.
the more they overrated the boys' success. So if you think that genius and brilliance is inherent to becoming successful in a field like chess or math, then that often manifests itself as bias towards girls. And I think part of it is because they're a little bit less confident sometimes and they don't brag. So it's like a little bit of a cycle, right?
Yep.
And also sometimes everyone, regardless of gender, has different growth curves, right? So for me, for instance, I was kind of like middling for a really long time and then I went like that. My brother, who's also a great chess player, was more like immediately like that. So and my whole family was super supportive of me, but I did see it from around. So less from my immediate circle. Thank God my mom, dad, and brother were all very supportive of me. That's why I stuck with it. But I saw from just outside that whispers, why is Jennifer so slow and her brother is so quick? You know, and it's like, well, maybe because I'm just a little slower and I'm accumulating it all.
Yeah. So what you're saying is microbragging, we need to start getting girls to microbrag at 8. No, I mean, this is, Kelly Shu at Yale did a similar study. She looked at 30,000 employee records, and men were consistently rated highest on management potential, like management promotion potential. Women were the lowest. But when they looked at their actual work, women were doing better work, like in terms of actual results. And the men weren't doing as well on actual performance. And they double clicked on why management potential was more correlated with male success. And they were like extroversion and charisma. So she said 40% of the pay gap related to promotion potential is because the men are just talking about themselves more often, right? They're just speaking up more. They're advocating for themselves more actively. So we're going to microbrag earlier.
Interesting, because I mean, one of the first things I thought about that is like, you know, managers don't get to do the real work anymore.
Okay, well, that's true. But, you know, the funny thing is when women were promoted, they were actually better managers.
I bet that. I do believe that. Yeah.
You know, what opportunities have opened up for you because you have spoken up for yourself or taken credit for something that you're proud of?
Well, I think sometimes just people don't know, man. I think like that's something we need to be aware of. Like, you think everybody Googles you before you meet them and they know that you're like, that I'm like a chess and a poker champion and I've written all these books. No, not everybody has time for all that. Yeah. So I think that sometimes we overestimate how much research or how much information somebody has about us. And that's why we have to put it out there.
Yeah. I have been underestimated most of my life. I'm an Asian woman in my 40s, but I look like I could be a grad student at NYU. And so people naturally think I'm like the assistant on the team.
Right.
And I'm like, I run the company, like FYI. And if you don't remind people of those things, they'll underestimate you in every circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. And that you're a USA Today bestseller.
Oh, well.
You gotta just put it out there.
You gotta put it out there. I know when the team handed me all the prep work a few weeks ago for you, not only was I already your fan, but I was like, oh my God, she's so cool. She's so cool. Now, in closing, what advice do you have to help others learn to microbrag and share their own stories?
I think have a model and try to copy them a little bit. I do this all the time. Whether it's like you, I have like these amazing female friends who are just like really good at microbragging, and I watch them and then I try to copy them and like incorporate what they're doing and do it myself. Because I have one friend who's just so good at it. Like she's just so good at like incorporating the fact that she's like a best-selling author and like brilliant, and she does it in a way where it doesn't seem like she's bragging. She just like kind of slides it in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I got to look at that. And everybody, I'm sure, has somebody like that in their life. When they introduce themselves, you're like, oh wow, they sound even cooler than I thought they were.
And then I meet them and they're awesome. Like, meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Please meet your heroes. It also helps to have a friend who will do that for you. So thank you for just microbragging for me.
Yes, that's good too. Yeah.
I will always be your hype woman in public and privately, FYI. If you do need an extra texting buddy the next time you're going in a tournament, you got an extra one to add to your list. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on In Confidence today. You've made me want to become a better chess player already.
That's amazing. I think you'd be good at poker too.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll just have to have you tell me where to go to get those lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. And I feel more confident already just from talking to you.
I loved this conversation with Jennifer. I was riveted the entire time. She also participated in our International Women's Day campaign. So that's how I got to know her. Now spending time with her in real life, in our studio, pretty incredible. What I learned from Jennifer is all about how powerful it can be to think like a chess champion. So in terms of scanning your options, leaning into your strengths, being present, and also looking forward. And I loved her poker tip, which is if you don't get caught bluffing, you're not bluffing big enough. It also was impressive how she can advocate for herself. And I like the ways in which she talked about microbragging, that you have to do it, that you don't have a choice. So I ask everyone this week to microbrag a little. Share out loud with others something that you are genuinely proud of, not because you're looking to be validated, not because you're looking for external markers of validation, but because you genuinely are passionate and excited to share something about yourself that moves the world forward. I hope you loved this episode of In Confidence. I hope you're leaving the space stronger than the way you entered it. If you loved this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe so you never miss a moment of inspiration. And in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.